You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on My Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, thank you, John. Well, in the news tonight, the EPA, the people that's going to be on the board, the finalists. Well, some of them actually have come from, like, ExxonMobil Corp and other gas companies. Do you think that, they're going to be biased on climate changes and earth changes? I don't know. But it's kind of spooky and scary to me. I don't know if I really agree with that. When the EPA has been pretty much stripped, and a lot of the laws that taken years and years to implement, being thrown out the window. And did you know that the scientists claim today that there's over 2 trillion galaxies out in the universe, and that doesn't even include the paranormal, or the parallel universe out there, which I got a funny feeling then we're going to have more than 2 trillion. And if you think life doesn't exist out there with all those galaxies, there has to be something, and who knows what they are. Well, we have Robert Moss who'll be on right after this.
Please check out the Night Dreams Talk Radio website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Also, if you want to keep our show free of advertising, just hit the donate button. Give a buck or two. Remember, all prior shows are always free to listen to. We at Night Dreams Talk Radio thank you for your support.
Our intro music is provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
Well, hi, Robert. How you doing tonight?
Good to be with you, Gary. Good to be dreaming with you on Night Dreams.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. And, hey, you have a new book out. I
do.
The reviews on it are actually just outstanding. And can you tell everybody what the book is and what it's about? And we'll go from there.
Well, the title will probably excite your listeners. The title is Mysterious Realities, and the subtitle is A Dream Traveler's Tales from the Imaginal Realm. And that actually explains what it's about. It's really about my stepping in and out of parallel worlds and my encounters with synchronistic events, those moments, when the universe gets very personal, things are happening in non-ordinary ways. So it's really an account with just those stories. I mean, stories from real experience lived in different realities of how the world is more than we may commonly think it is. I mean, how there are other dimensions of reality quite close to us. The doors to them open from wherever we are, and maybe those other realities contain the secret logic of our lives. So it's a book in which you'll find that the dead are alive. Maybe you know that, or maybe you don't. I have no theology about these things, but I know as a very active dreamer all of my life that, the consciousness or soul survives death. So some of the stories are about going to places where you can talk to very interesting people who are on the other side, including some people with famous names. There's a story that is about a conversation with Jung, Carl Gustav Jung, the great psychologist, in the realm where he is living right now. At least I think that's where he is. There's another story like that about the Irish poet William Butler Yeats, and another one about the great Romanian scholar and student of shamanism, Mircea Eliade, about what his transition experiences in the afterlife are about. And probably one of the guiding themes is really that we are living in many worlds. That's a term I'm borrowing from science. Physics is sympathetic these days, Gary, to the idea that you and I right now are living in one of maybe numberless parallel universes, right? We're talking on your show right now, but there are numberless parallel universes where we're doing something quite different, where you don't have a radio show and where I'm not publishing these books. It's called the Many Worlds Hypothesis. And the idea is that, we live in many parallel worlds. Well, in my stories, drawn from experience, drawn from what I think is going on in real worlds beyond the ordinary, there are accounts of what it means on a human level to be living in more than one world at the same time. A world in which, for example, what we're doing here is the dream, and what we're doing somewhere else is the reality. Our parallel self looks at us from its parallel situation and thinks, we're the dream figment. We're not altogether real. We're a sort of bubble that's recollected in the morning somewhere else. So it's a Mysterious Realities is a book which I think is entertaining and exciting. It's also about living on the mythic edge, by which I mean that in life you sometimes discover that you have a larger story that is going with you, whether it's the story of Odysseus or Cinderella, whatever it is, and that also plays into the things that you find happening around you in everyday life. So this is the new book, and I'm a proud parent of a new literary baby.
Oh, wow. You mean there could be another me or more than another me? One could be, doing a radio show, and then the other me could be, a cab driver or a scientist.
Absolutely. Why not? Why not be a cab driver? I don't sound sinister, but there's another you and another me, Gary, who also died some time ago and are doing well or otherwise in the afterlife. So there's that kind of, other story. There's another you and another me who made different life choices about partners or work, as you say. The other self might be a cab driver, or might be someone on Skid Row, or might be someone who's doing something very interesting up on a mountain top in the Himalayas. I think that this is more likely than not. How do you know about this firsthand? I mean, how is it more than a matter of theory? Well, one of the things I know, as somebody who's paid attention to dreams for a very long time in my life and kept journals of dreams for more than 40 years, is I know that in dreams, when you remember them, you sometimes notice as time goes on that you're back in the same scene. And I'm not talking about a recurring dream, which is the same-o, same-o. I'm talking now about the kind of dreams in which you find yourself somewhere else, and then the next time you are dreaming about this, the action has moved on. So you're growing in age, for example, maybe exactly parallel to your present life. So you dream, for example, that you're still with the person you were living with 20 years ago, but parted company with. Some time ago, you're still with her or with him, and then you dream again, and you're still with that person in that life, and you dream again of it. And this kind of thing is suggestive of living a continuous life somewhere else. Towards the end of his life, Jung, who I mentioned earlier, came to the conclusion that our dreams are sometimes glimpses of continuous lives we are living in another reality. I think he was right on. I think that one of the ways we learn about this firsthand, as I say, is to start recollecting our dreams and keep a journal of them and look over time at the situations in which you seem to be returning to a life situation different from your own, and the action is moving on from one dream to another. I think that's one of the ways that we get a human sort of handle on this very interesting possibility. And you might say, well, what is the good of thinking about this? Well, part of the good of thinking about this might be that if you discover there's another Gary or another Robert doing something different somewhere else in the many worlds, you might be able to draw some lessons, some life lessons from that other person, from their experience. You might even be able to draw some gifts. Maybe that person became a fantastic cab driver who could find his way around situations where you and I tend to get lost. Maybe you can draw some navigational skills from that parallel self, or maybe that parallel self is the artist who developed a skill in painting or photography or something else you haven't done in your life right now, but you'd like to do some of that, and maybe you can reach, in a way, into that parallel life and bring some of it through and grow in that way. So this is a very interesting area to think about. And as I say, I mean, we're in sync here with what physics is telling us about reality. When a bold and young Princeton post-grad called Hugh Everett floated the many worlds hypothesis back in the 60s, is laughed out of court by the scientific establishment of that day. But today, a lot of physicists are sympathetic to the idea. In fact, they call it not only the many worlds hypothesis, they call it the mini interactive worlds hypothesis, meaning that these parallel lives, these parallel worlds are not just a sort of passive phenomenon. We bump up against them in our lives. A parallel life situation where you are the taxi driver, for example, Gary, can converge with your present life, so you suddenly find yourself able to navigate that difficult traffic situation, or it bumps up against you in the sense that something you're doing in that parallel life begins to cast a bit of a shadow and creates a bit of a problem over your present life. So, this is sort of cutting-edge stuff. In Mysterious Realities, I present it in an entertaining and straightforward way. I mean, you can enjoy the stories and enter the experiences without having to sit down and do how-to exercises, etc., and simply take you to the places that it's possible to go.
Oh, wow. Sometimes, like, I have vivid dreams. And, it's like, sometimes I've always wondered, because I had a scientist on my show about 10 months ago. And he was telling me that, how do you know that when you're dreaming, you're not in another parallel universe? Yes. And it's actually real. And then which one is real? The one when you're sleeping, or the one when you're awake? And it's really hard sometimes to, you sit there and you wake up and you kind of distinguish, well, gee, was that real? Or did it really happen? I'm sure you've had dreams like that. And, and it seems like some of the dreams I have are totally opposite of what I am. Different jobs, different relationships, different everything. And, sometimes I wonder if you kind of slide into your other self in another parallel universe.
Well, you're floating some very interesting ideas, Gary, and thank you very much for putting them in that very clear way. I mean, we can't generalize about dreams. There are dreams of many kinds. We dream in many ways. There are little dreams, there are big dreams, there are dreams which are routine processing of what went on the day before. There are dreams that are commentaries on how you fed yourself last night, whether you ate too fast or the wrong things. There are dreams like that. And then there are the dreams that are suggestive of being in alternate realities, dreams that are experiences you feel of being in another world, another dimension, or a parallel life. I mean, the ancient and indigenous